Stop acting so high and mighty just because of a few $1,000s. The only reason you're living comfortably is because of my son. Gary's mother sneered at me, her voice sharp with irritation. Then, turning to Gary with a smirk, she added, "Gary, why do you keep supporting this woman? I'm sick of Zoe's complaints and her holier-than-thou attitude. You deserve someone younger, someone better." Gary smirked slightly as if he didn't entirely disagree. "Well, she's free to leave any time," he said casually, glancing in my direction. His words stung. At that moment I realized I had no one on my side in this house. Without saying another word, I locked myself in the bedroom and let the tears fall. But the next day, I overheard something unexpected about Gary at work. That moment was my turning point. If that's the case, I thought, I'll gladly divorce him. And so I began making my preparations. My name is Zoe. My husband Gary and I first crossed paths when I was in my 3rd year of university. He had just joined our student club as a freshman. Gary was confident, maybe a little too confident. He carried himself with an air of self-importance, no doubt the result of being spoiled by his parents. But he was also charming and effortlessly fit into our social circle, quickly winning people over. Despite being in the same club, I barely spoke to him back then. I was focused on job hunting and graduation, and soon I left university behind. Years later, when I was in my 2nd year of working, Gary reappeared in my life. He showed up at my company for a job interview. "So it's me, Gary, from the club." He greeted me with a wide grin. It turned out that my company was his first choice workplace, and soon, he started reaching out frequently for advice. After a few casual outings where we talked about work, one thing led to another, and we started dating. Not long after, Gary secured the sales position and became my colleague. With his natural charisma, he built a strong network within the company and gained favor with his superiors. A year after joining, he proposed. I had always imagined that if I married Gary, life would be easygoing and fun. But one thing gave me pause: his mother. From our conversations, I already had a sense that she was overly attached to her only son, and my instincts were right. When I first met her at Gary's house, I greeted her nervously. "Hello, Mrs. Langston. I'm Zoe, Gary's girlfriend." She didn't bother to smile. "You're 3 years older than Gary, aren't you?" she said flatly. "Yes, we met in university," I replied. She scoffed. "That may have mattered back then, but in this house, you should remember, Gary now holds a higher status than you." Her meaning was clear. She disapproved of me. She never outright opposed the marriage, likely because she didn't want to upset Gary, but her coldness was evident. Even after we were married, every visit to her home was filled with thinly veiled jabs. "You're still working even after marriage?" she would ask with obvious disapproval. "Yes, Gary and I share responsibilities, so it works out," I would say politely. "Responsibilities?" she would scoff. "Don't tell me you're making Gary do chores too." "We both work full-time, so we divide the housework," I explained. "But he's in sales, and you're just an office worker. There's a huge difference between the two," she snapped. I glanced at Gary, hoping for some support, but he just sat there, smiling smugly as his mother praised him. That's when I understood. I was on my own. Over time, Gary became increasingly busy. Late nights, early mornings, weekends spent at the office. Our time together dwindled. Then, one evening, I received an envelope from an unfamiliar sender. Inside was a debt collection notice. When Gary finally came home, I confronted him. "Care to explain this?" I asked, holding out the letter. He sighed, already irritated. "Can't this wait? I've had a long day." I didn't back down. "You have debt, don't you? Tell me the truth." His expression shifted, his face paling slightly. "It's nothing serious, just entertainment expenses." "Entertainment expenses?" I repeated. "For work," he insisted. "I had to take a client out, and I didn't have cash on me that day." "You have a company card for that," I pointed out. "AITA forbade it at home." I glanced at the amount, $7,000. "You borrowed $7,000 just for one outing?" I asked, incredulous. "Better to take out a lump sum than borrow little by little," he reasoned. "Besides, I'll get reimbursed." "Then why not pay it off with your savings in the meantime?" Gary scoffed. "Why should I touch my savings?" I felt a headache coming on. If we don't pay soon, interest will pile up. And don't forget, we still have loan payments on this apartment. Despite my doubts, I didn't want the debt hanging over us. So against my better judgment, I transferred the $7,000 from my own savings, the money I had carefully built up long before our marriage. Gary promised he'd be more responsible and even suggested we visit his mother that weekend. I wasn't eager, but I agreed. As expected, his mother welcomed him warmly but treated me with the same cold indifference. By now, I no longer bothered to impress her. When she started her usual complaints, I found excuses to stay busy in the kitchen. That's when I overheard them talking. "Gary, are you sure your marriage is going well? Zoe isn't bossing you around, is she?" his mother asked. Gary chuckled. "Of course not. She does whatever I tell her, handling housework, managing money. If I ask, she even hands over her savings." I froze. "As for gifts, just let me know what you want," Gary continued proudly. "Zoe still has plenty of savings left. She'll buy you anything." That was the last straw. Later, when Gary turned to me with a smirk and repeated his casual remark, "You can leave anytime you want," I met his gaze with a newfound clarity. This time, I was ready. At that moment, it hit me, there was no one in this house who stood by my side. Without another word, I walked into the bedroom, locked the door, and let my tears flow. Meanwhile, Gary remained in the living room, sipping the tea I had made, completely unfazed. He and his mother continued chatting as if nothing had happened, only stopping when she eventually left. The next morning, I arrived at work feeling drained. My boss noticed right away. "Zoe, are you okay? You don't seem like yourself today," he asked with genuine concern. Forcing a small smile, I replied, "It's nothing, just some trouble at home." "If you're comfortable sharing, I'm here to listen," he said kindly. I hesitated but eventually opened up, telling him everything: Gary's growing debt, his mother's constant mistreatment, and the way I was being pushed aside. My boss listened attentively, then after a brief pause, he said something that took me by surprise. "It's about Gary," he started. I frowned. "What about him?" He hesitated before revealing something I never expected. Apparently, Gary had gained quite the reputation at work, and not in a good way. Hearing what my boss had to say only confirmed my decision. I needed to divorce Gary. A week later, while I was on paid leave, Gary's mother showed up at the house with her luggage. The moment she spotted me, her expression turned icy. "Oh, Zoe, you're still here? I assumed you'd be gone by now," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "From today on, I'll be taking care of Gary, so hurry up and leave." I blinked in disbelief. "You're moving in? Just like that?" "Of course," she replied smugly. "Until our house renovations are done." "Renovations?" I asked, surprised. "If you divorce Gary, he'll come back home. So we decided to tear down our house and rebuild it, just for the two of us," she said with satisfaction. I could hardly believe it. They were so sure of my departure that they had already started making arrangements. "But isn't that expensive?" I asked. "Didn't you say there wasn't much left from your late husband's estate?" She waved off my concern. "That's not a problem. Once we don't need your support anymore, Gary's salary will cover the costs." I raised an eyebrow. "Gary's salary?" She scoffed. "Haven't I told you before? There's a big difference between what an office worker like you earns and what an up-and-coming salesman like Gary makes." Then she narrowed her eyes at me. "If you know you're unwanted, why don't you just leave already?" I couldn't help but laugh. Her face twisted in irritation. "What's so funny?" Still chuckling, I said, "Gary won't be earning any salary soon. He's about to lose his job." Her eyes widened in shock. "What?" "That $7,000 Gary borrowed from me," I continued. "He claimed it was for client entertainment, but he actually spent it on personal expenses." Her expression darkened. In a panic, she grabbed my arm. "Zoe, you work at the same company, don't you? You need to help him. Talk to the president and get his dismissal revoked." I pulled my arm away. "Oh, so now we're a team?" I asked sarcastically. "Weren't you just telling me to leave?" She faltered, her face turning pale. "I see," I said slowly, shaking my head. "Well, let me be clear. I am divorcing Gary." She gasped. "What? You're just going to abandon him when he's in trouble? What kind of wife does that?" I met her gaze with unwavering confidence. "Gary is the one who abandoned me first." Then, I told her the truth. My boss had informed me that several employees had seen Gary sneaking around with another woman, during work hours. It turned out the money he took from me had been used to take her out on dates. I'm not divorcing him because he's losing his job, I said firmly. I'm divorcing him because he's been deceiving me all along. I have no reason to stay with someone like that. For once, Gary's mother had nothing to say. She sat there, speechless. I left her in silence, packed my belongings, and walked out of the house. That night, Gary called me. "So, is it true that you left?" he asked, his voice laced with disbelief. "Yes," I answered coolly. "My mom just told me." She suddenly collapsed, he muttered. "Come back right now." I scoffed. "What are you talking about? You were the one who told me I could leave any time." "I didn't mean it," he snapped. "I never thought you'd actually go." "Well, I'm done with this marriage," I said firmly. "Stop being so dramatic," he retorted. "How long are you going to sulk?" That was the last straw. "It's you who needs to stop being in denial," I shot back. "I know everything." There was a long pause before he finally asked, his voice hesitant. "What, exactly do you know?" "That you've been cheating on me. That you spent my money on another woman," I said bluntly. He stammered, That's not true." "Who told you that?" "My boss. And multiple employees saw you," I replied. "I've already started the divorce process." Then I laid out the consequences. "First, you'll have to pay back the $7,000 I lent you. Second, I'll be seeking compensation for emotional distress." Gary panicked. "Wait, how am I supposed to pay that? I can't even cover my debt right now." "That's your problem, not mine," I said coldly. "My demands stand." "So please," he pleaded. "You were lucky to marry a younger, popular guy like me. Let's work through this." I let out a short laugh. "There's nothing left to work through. You've lost your job, you're drowning in debt, and we were only stable because of my income. Now that's gone too." "Wait," Gary said, suddenly uneasy. "Are you saying I'm fired?" I sighed. "Your colleagues have been talking about you for a while. They say you're all talk and no action. You constantly neglect important tasks. And now, with the fraudulent expense claims, the company has no reason to keep you around." I hung up. For days, Gary kept calling, leaving desperate messages like, "Please help me, and let's start over." But after a while, I blocked him completely. In the end, we sold the house, though it barely covered the debts. With no job and no way to pay back his loans, Gary had no choice but to declare bankruptcy. As for me, I threw myself into my career. My efforts paid off. My boss recognized my hard work and promoted me with a significant raise. Recently, he even confessed his feelings for me. Unlike Gary, he's someone I can truly rely on. For the first time in a long while, I feel hopeful about the future. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.